Welcome back. In this lesson, we're looking at future plans in English and the verb tenses that we use for future plans. We're going to start the lesson by looking at 3 example sentences, and it's your job to find the wrong sentence of the 3. So here are the sentences now. Number 1, I'm going to visit my aunt next week. In this case, the construction is I'm going to. In number 2, the sentence is I'm visiting my aunt next week. In this case, the construction is present continuous, I'm visiting. And number 3, I'll visit my aunt next week. Here, the construction or the tense is future simple. So, which sentence is wrong? Well, number 1, which uses going to for future plans, is fine. Number 2, which uses present continuous for future plans next week, is also fine. That leaves sentence 3, future simple, I'll visit my aunt next week, as the wrong sentence. We can't use future simple for future plans. In fact, this is a common mistake. I often hear students say, for example, I'll go on holiday next week. What they should be saying is, I'm going to go on holiday next week, or even I'm going on holiday next week in the present continuous. Remember, future simple is normally used for quick decisions about the future, for predictions, and for requests in the question form. Now, before we continue, let's look at some time expressions for future plans so that we have some context. Number 1, and this is something, week, month, year, and the answer is next. Number 2, in a month, in 2 months, in a week is a future plan. We say we'll do something in a month. Number 3, we can have on, so on the 1st of October here. Number 4, this time expression for future plans, where we have afternoon, evening, is this. We could also have year or century even. And number 5, this is tonight or tomorrow. The 6th expression for future plans is simply later. And number 7 is at 2 o'clock, when we're talking about 2 o'clock in the future. Let's now go back to our tenses for future plans, and we've seen already that we can use going to and present continuous. Let's look at going to first of all, and we form going to with to be plus going to plus the verb. For example, he's going to arrive late. Another example is I'm or I am going to live verb in Australia next year. And third example is, are they going to come with us in the question form? Now, you might be wondering about the use of gonna, which is basically going to in a short form. Now, the first thing to remember is that this is a very informal expression, and it's normally used only for speaking and hardly ever for writing, unless you're writing to a close friend. The second thing to remember for gonna is if you're going to use it, do remember to be before gonna. So he's gonna arrive late, not he gonna arrive late. As I say, it's very informal, so be careful in how you use this. So let's now look at the conjugations for going to. We're going to, as normal, use the verb to live in the positive, question, and negative forms. So, going to with the verb to live in the positive form. First of all, I something something. The answer is I am going to live. With you, we, they, it's are going to live again. And for he, she, it, we have is. He is going to live. Now, if we want to use the informal form of this, we would say I'm going to live. you're going to live, we're going to live, they're going to live. And he's going to live, she's going to live, it's going to live. Question form now. Am I going to live? Are you, we, they going to live? And is he, she, it going to live? And finally, the negative form. I am not going to live. You, we, they are not going to live. And he, she, it is not going to live. For the informal, we would say, I'm not going to live. You're not, we're not, they're not going to live. We could also say, you aren't going to live. We aren't, or they aren't going to live. And for the third form, he, she, it, we would say, he's not going to live, or she's not. Equally, we could say, he isn't going to live. She isn't going to live. It isn't going to live. So that's going to. Let's now turn to present continuous for future plans. And we make present continuous with to be plus the verb plus ing. We've already seen present continuous when used in its present form, but now we're going to look at it when used for future plans. Examples of present continuous for future plans are as follows. They're coming at noon, where noon is in the future. Another example would be, I'm starting a new course next week. And finally, when are you leaving in the question form? Let's look at the conjugations for present continuous. In this case, we're going to use the verb to leave in the positive, question, and negative forms. Of course, we've already done this earlier, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. Present continuous, to leave in the positive, I am leaving, you, we, they are leaving, he, she, it is leaving. In the informal, we would say, I'm leaving, you're leaving, or we're leaving, they're leaving, and he's leaving, she's leaving, it's leaving. In the question form now, am I leaving? Are you, we, they leaving? And is he, she, or it leaving? And finally now, in the negative form, I am not leaving. You, we, they are not leaving. And he, she, it is not leaving. In the informal again, I'm not leaving. You're not leaving. We're not leaving. They're not leaving. We could also say, you aren't leaving. We aren't leaving. They aren't leaving. And finally, here we have, he's not leaving. She's not leaving. It's not leaving. Or he isn't leaving. She isn't leaving. It isn't leaving. So those are the conjugations for present continuous. For future plans, we've seen that we can use going to and present continuous, not future simple or will. The question now is, what's the difference between going to and present continuous? For example, if I say, I'm going to meet her tomorrow and I'm meeting her tomorrow, what's the difference? Well, the answer is a question of emphasis. In the first sentence, I'm going to meet, the emphasis is on the action, whereas in the second sentence, I'm meeting her tomorrow, the emphasis is on the plan. Two more sentences. We're going to have a party later, we're having a party later. And again, the same rules apply. Going to have a party, the emphasis is on the action. In this sentence, we're having a party later, the emphasis is on the plan of having a party. As you can see, the difference between the two constructions is not a big one. However, it's useful to know. So that's the end of this lesson. Here is the PDF you can download, which summarises all of the points that we've covered and also has the example sentences at the end here. Join me now for the practice exercises, where we'll look at all the future tenses that we've seen in the past 2 lessons.